Hello and welcome. This is Jersey Hobby Hour, episode 9. I'm your host, Steve Chin. I'm joined tonight by Justin Kaz.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Alan is not available tonight. He's got a little bit of work to do. And I've been kind of busy myself, actually. And we have only a few topics today. And we're running a little bit late, as you can probably notice, seeing as it's 8:36 and we've started the broadcast. We basically just want to have a really short 20, 30-minute conversation, just talking about some news topics that are going on currently, because this show is all about just having conversations with friends in news topics about gaming, current events, entertainment, really anything that catches our fancy. And we just want to broadcast it for you guys to watch. So let's jump right into it. Justin, what do we got up first?
First was the Star Wars trailer that came out. Earlier this week. Too much fanfare on the internet.
Oh, probably a little bit too much fanfare.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I watched the trailer and I was actually pretty intrigued by it. I like, of course, the high quality that they sort of put in, or high production quality that they put into it. If you haven't checked it out, it's definitely available on YouTube. Definitely do so. I'll put links in the comments, or rather in the video description down below after the show, when this video posts after we're done live broadcasting.
Yeah. Is the Star Wars still very popular years later, as it turns out?
How do you feel about the new movie coming out? I mean, I don't have your reactions quite yet, and I've asked a lot of people, and I don't think I know what your opinion is on another Star Wars movie.
I'm actually not one of those people that didn't like the prequels. I know the prequels are hated by many. I mean, I hated Episode 3 a lot. I thought his acting, what's his name, Hayden Christensen's acting was god awful. Nearly ruined the second movie. Pretty much ruined the third movie for me. But I like the action. The lightsaber fights were cool. As far as this one, I mean, it'll make a ton of money, obviously, and the fact that, you know, what you were saying earlier was off camera, was that they had retconned kind of the entire outer universe, like with the books and whatnot. It'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I kind of look forward to seeing sort of new stories, because everyone's kind of heard in the periphery about the books and everything that's happened in that sort of expanded universe.
Yeah.
But that being wiped out kind of opens up new doors. And I mean, I have some ideas about what the story is just based on the title and kind of what we're getting out of the trailer. My opinion is that, you know, this whole Force Awakens thing is sort of based out of Luke Skywalker becoming a hermit after Return of the Jedi and, you know, defeating the Sith.
Kind of going the Obi-Wan route.
Yeah, and I think it's more so because he understands that there always has to be balance in the Force, and that he was the one who was supposed to bring balance to the Force. But ultimately, you know, he realizes that, hey, this isn't such a good thing to have in the universe at all. So I think maybe he like exiled himself and made himself reclusive and basically tried not to use his Force powers. So this whole Force Awakens thing is kind of, it doesn't matter what Luke does to run away, it's going to happen. That's kind of what my take is.
It kind of seems like if what you're saying is true, it's kind of like Sith popped up. Now it needs to be rebalanced. So, hey, the Force Awakens, you know, like, hey, somebody else has to rebring Force. The interesting thing, kind of interesting though, what I was thinking when you were saying that is, in those movies, every time somebody comes along to bring balance, they always end up not bringing balance.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, like you're gonna bring balance, and then all of a sudden everything's kind of screwed, and then they fix it, and then they go away, but then it's still in balance, so somebody else comes along to bring balance. I don't know.
Did you ever see that movie, The One, with Jet Li?
No, unfortunately not.
So, quick synopsis. Basically, there's multiple universes, parallel universes, and there are cops who actually stop interlopers from switching universes to kill yourself. And the whole reason being is if you don't exist in other universes, the remainder become more powerful. So the more universes that you visit and kill yourself in, you become more powerful. So it turns out, like, in this universe where there's cops that worry about people traveling to other universes, Jet Li's one of the cops, and it turns out that he has a double in another universe, which is out there killing all the other Jet Li's, or his character in that.
That's kind of a cool concept, actually.
So, like, in the end, it's like him and himself fighting because they're like the two last versions of themselves in parallel universes.
That is kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, check it out. I mean, it's worth a watch. It's really random that I brought that up, but I mean, it's one of those things where, like, oh yeah, balance and everything. No,
that's still cool, really.
I mean, Star Wars. I mean, this is going to be really interesting what they do here, and that's kind of what my take is on what they're planning for the movie. So, like, this whole rebalancing is going to happen because Luke steps away from the picture, and you have everything else just kind of balance itself.
Well, the idea with they're having J.J. Abrams direct it, which he did the Star Trek movies and other movies. It'll be kind of interesting. It's going to be like a new take. It's going to be like a new story and a new director. So it'll be kind of my impression is that I'll probably like it. It'll probably be a good sci-fi movie, but I feel like what's going to end up happening is, I mean, this will probably happen no matter what, but everybody's going to be like, this isn't a Star Wars movie. They're going to, this isn't a Star Wars movie. It's too different, But I think it's going to be a box office hit just because of the name.
Right.
And they've been fleshing out the universe, so.
A lot of things are going to have the name and sort of the sequel kind of money behind it. But I think Star Wars is also just going to have a huge amount of people who are just totally involved with the universe show up too.
I mean,
it's just like the Marvel movies now. Like, you have all the comic book nerds that were always kind of behind the scenes before they became like big blockbuster hits, and now, like, they're part of the scene too. I mean, it's the same thing with Star Wars nerds.
Well, you heard they crashed the Fandango site and the AMC site with pre-orders of tickets. Like, they took down all the big movie sites trying to pre-order these tickets. So it's gonna be a phenom. It's gonna be something.
Did you get tickets yet?
No, I didn't. I don't know. I'm not a big opening night guy, generally speaking. Just I might, but at this point they're probably sold out. But I don't know.
It's like opening night the night before, though, because like you could totally get tickets for the night before launch.
I'm one of those people that, like, I hate being crammed in a theater full of people, and then there's just all this noise, and of course there's going to be some guy in the back making some funny, like, oh, I'm the comedian at the theater. Right. What movie was it that I saw? It was something with Samuel L. Jackson in it, and some dude in the back just stood up in the middle of the theater, like when it was like a dramatic scene, and just goes, "Motherfucker," like makes Samuel L. Jackson reference, and it was funny, but I'm like, it's not the time. I can't remember what movie it was, but it was funny, but like I could have lived without that because everybody in the theater was thinking it, but one guy had to stand up and say it.
I mean, I got tickets with Alan, for opening night, and I think we have a 10:30 showing the night before. Yeah, I hate being crammed into a movie, but it's Star Wars, and I really want to see it. So I mean, I'm gonna go opening day, definitely.
One day when I win my scratch off millions and my my scratch off lottery tickets, I'm gonna just have an at home theater, and they're gonna ship me the movies, and I'm not gonna have to go to the theater, and have to deal with people. But it'll be all right. I'm sure if I win, I would enjoy it, but I think I'll enjoy it more like 3 weeks later at like 12 o'clock on a Thursday, if I could manage that and see it with nobody in there.
Explain to me how you feel about people boycotting the movie because it's anti-white.
That is the dumbest shit I ever heard. There was a meme going around online that I laughed at. It said people were boycotting the new Star Wars because the main character is black, but they forget that Darth Vader was voiced by James Earl Jones. Yeah. Like, who cares? I don't understand. Like, this, who really cares?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you have to bring that up just points out the fact that
I actually thought,
like this person who originally decided that this was a good idea to say something like this, like that person's probably very racially biased in the first place.
Mace Windu was awesome. He was one of the best parts of the prequels. I was actually kind of surprised and thought it was kind of interesting because I thought the female in the trailer was going to be the lead character, and I thought it was going to be kind of interesting to have like a female lead character because in those books that you were talking about that were retconned, I didn't read any of them really, but I know that Han Solo's daughter played a big role in it. And I thought that's who she was, and I thought that was going to be an interesting take. But the rest of that's just it's nonsense. I don't. First of all, that's not going to get any traction at all. There's going to be a couple people sharing it, and you're going to see some news articles. But guess what? This movie's going to make like probably over $1 billion once it's all said and done, and that's the first movie of 3.
Well, the other thing too is like the suspension of disbelief and the fact that it's fiction. Like, like who would care? Even if it was, anti-white, it's fiction.
I don't even. I mean, like you have a hand. Like it actually just from the trailer, it looks like it's a pretty good mix of people. And at the same time, it's like are you gonna say it's anti-white because there's so many Wookiees in it? Like, come on.
Like I don't know. Like is art supposed to have a message that is especially biased one way or another for anything?
I think people.
It's the interpretation, right? It has nothing to do with like what the actual movie is about.
I think people put a message on something because that's what maybe it's like an insecurity of their own. But they see something and they put their own message on it. I don't like. It's not going to stop me from going to see it.
It's like I don't know.
It's
like
more likely that I won't see the movie because there's people in the theater annoying me than the main character being black.
It's like going to see like the Mona Lisa and say, "Yo, that's racist."
Yeah, like I don't know. Who cares? I thought
it's
honestly,
just a white lady in a picture. Like somebody just decided to paint that. Like that has nothing to do with. Like,
one of my favorite parts of the prequels was every scene with Mace Windu. They were always awesome. Like every one of those scenes was just amazing. So I don't even if they had made a spinoff movie where they had a whole prequel series just devoted to how Mace Windu came up, I would go see that in a heartbeat. Like it doesn't matter.
If anything, I think the movie is anti-human. So there's plenty of aliens in the movie.
Well, let's back
and they're a lot cooler than the humans are.
They never said that they were human. It's in a galaxy far, far away, years and years from now. But no, I mean, I think that's just a bunch of crap, honestly. Like, come on. That's a very small, very, very small group of people being like, hey, listen to us, we want attention. Who cares?
Yeah, it's a way of trying to get attention because
it's
the flaw over the movie, right?
It's so ridiculous. Like I can't even when I saw that I was like, you're kidding me. First of all, actually what I was saying was wait, the female's not the lead character, and then I was thinking, wait, who cares if like I don't make it a black female and a black guy and
make it a robot.
Who cares?
Let's Wally.
Bring back Mace Windu. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm really saying. Actually, it should just be Mace Windu, a Wookiee, and what's left of Harrison Ford, just searching the universe. I mean, because at this point, Harrison Ford's
Hitchhiker's Guide with Harrison Ford.
I mean, let's be honest. At this point, Harrison Ford's about 170, so I don't. Good for him, man.
Yeah, he's got gray hair in the movie, but he's totally got gray hair in real life. So it's like, did they even have to do makeup and stuff? Like,
nah, he just rolled on set and he's just like super crotchety and he's just like, hey, what's going on? Let's do this. Let's make this happen. Apparently the guy who did the what was it? I think the guy who was in R2-D2 in the original series. Apparently he's like in his 80s and he's like getting up there in age and he's coming back for it. So that's kind of cool. There's a lot of fan service, obviously. But to go back to that, the controversy, I don't understand at all. Like that I don't understand that at all. But
all right, so what else we got next?
Bring back Mace Windu. I had something came out this week about YouTube. They're launching something called YouTube Red, which is again Google just saying, "Hey, we got so much freaking money. Let's just put everything else to shame." So YouTube Red, one of the things that doesn't affect me at all because I use an ad blocker is that they're going to take off ads off YouTube videos. Now, I don't see ads on YouTube videos because I'm one of those terrible people that uses an ad blocker. I'm sorry, but I'm not watching a 45-second ad to watch a 15-second video. It's just ridiculous to me. But they're going to do for $10 a month. You can subscribe to YouTube Red. It'll be no ads on YouTube. You'll get the Google Play music service, which is like a Spotify. YouTube is going to start producing kind of like Netflix style original content. You'll have access to that. You'll be able to actually save videos to watch them offline. Now that part is actually a little bit confusing because I thought it meant like you could download videos, which seemed like kind of an like a privacy thing, like a copyright issue, because you can host copyrighted stuff on YouTube.
Right.
But it looked like what it meant was that you could click a little button that said view offline, which meant that let's say you're on your Wi-Fi at home and you wanted to watch a series of videos on YouTube, you could cache them onto your device, and then when you're offline, you could watch them so you wouldn't eat up your data plan. And this one, a little bit contentious because I believe this was a feature that the YouTube app had for several years and they patched out. And there's a lot of third-party apps. You can have the videos running in the background while you're doing other things. So if you're familiar with like the YouTube app now, you start playing a video. Let's say you're playing you're playing music, which is very common. People go to YouTube just to play music. You'll play music. You'll kind of click out of the app, and it stops playing the music, or you turn off the screen and stops playing the music. Paying $10 a month gives you the ability to have that music playing. So essentially, you wouldn't need to torrent music. You wouldn't need to even purchase music. You go to YouTube, go to like Vivo, look up a music video, put your device to sleep, and it'll still play.
That seems kind of like a boring kind of feature that's really not super useful.
You know what? It's incredibly boring. It's a feature that the old YouTube app had, and there's several apps in the App Store that will do that for you, like a third-party app. However, it's also probably, in my experience, one of the most sought-after features on YouTube. I can't tell you how many people I've had, both personally and in my work life, come up to me and be like, how do I get YouTube to play on my phone after I shut off the screen? Like, I don't understand. Like, why is this not a thing? And it's, $10 a month. I mean, that's actually, think about it. Replace Spotify and you won't replace Netflix, but you replace Spotify and you get no ads the legit way, and you can use that offline feature and you can save videos. Like, it's actually not a bad value proposition for $10 a month.
Well, what I see a problem with is, and this, along with something like Twitch, which is the live stream gaming service, they collect money so that you don't have to watch ads while you watch someone's content, but they're collecting that money, and that person's they actually collect money from that. So like, for example, if you're a Twitch producer, you host your content, you're playing video games or whatever, and someone visits your page and watches an advertisement, it actually supports that user if they're a monetized user.
Yeah, they're getting a small portion of the 10. My understanding, from what I had read, this is not in the official articles that I've read, at least that I could see, but my understanding is they'll still get a portion of the money if somebody that has YouTube Red watches their video. I mean, the problem right now is self-described content creators on YouTube are having a real problem supporting themselves. And I mean, I'm not going to get into a debate whether or not you should make YouTube a career, but there are, a lot of high quality YouTube videos out there. You can see a lot of tutorials on how to do stuff. I mean, to me, YouTube's kind of become like the second Google. If I need help with something, if I'm not Googling it, I'm going on YouTube. So there is a case to be made for content creators to be supported on YouTube. But you're seeing a lot of content creators now go towards something like Patreon or some crowdsourcing platforms like that.
I've been seeing something like Vessel is a very common one right now that a lot of video or like high quality content creators are moving to.
Oh yeah, is that the one you have to pay a subscription fee to watch the videos?
It's like $2.99 a month or something like that.
So the problem they're having now is that the ad-supported revenue. So what they were trying to do, at least in my opinion, is they're trying to take the model that worked in the television industry and apply it to the internet, which is, see ads. You watch the ads, the ad companies pay the company distributes the money. The problem with that is that even though TV is ad supported, it's also supported by your cable bill. So the vendors, the channels, they make deals, they cut deals with TV providers, and you get packages HBO. You pay $10 to Comcast, HBO gets a cut of that. So the problem is you can't really apply that model to the internet because it's going to run into kind of like net neutrality things where you were seeing Comcast try to they were doing it for more nefarious purposes, but they were trying to apply that same model where they were saying, hey, we'll give increased speed to companies who pay us money. So it was kind of like you're subscribing by going to different tiers of Comcast. This was the terrible nightmare that was what was going to happen if net neutrality didn't pass, or if they had like revisions to it, was you'd pay different tiers, kind of like you do with cable. You pay different tiers of cable, and you get different access speeds to certain websites. That was kind of seen. I think it wasn't an antitrust thing, but there was some kind of law that it was breaking, and for good reason. I don't think that that's a good idea at all. But what you're having now is this issue where the ad model is actually crumbling. You're not able to support. These sites aren't able to support themselves off of ads, so they're testing the waters with other things. So you see a lot of websites doing the subscription model, pay $20 a month, and
I think a lot of it has to deal with like dilution, right? So I mean, now you have many more people on the internet that have access to many more different things. Yeah. So it's hard for a advertisement company to place the ads appropriately so that people who need to watch it or I mean, not necessarily need to watch it. People who are forced to watch it are actually watching it so that the advertisers feel like they're reaching an audience. So like I definitely see that. Like
well, that's where big data comes in. That's where the big data comes.
I mean, all the metrics and stuff like that you have off of YouTube, like that's huge. But it's still, you're still getting dilution because you have content. So like a website like YouTube just has infinite amounts of content, and it's really about still ad placement. Like, you know, where do you place those ads so that you reach your audience? And how does an individual who's producing content for YouTube monetize off of something that you might not necessarily be able to get ads for? I mean, it's the same thing as if like you or I just decided to start shooting a television series. Like, how would we get advertisement for it because no one actually watches it, or no one might watch it? You know, it's that same kind of process.
It's weird because I feel like they're trying to apply an old model to what the internet is now, and it's difficult because before, you know, if you wanted to sell ads for a television show, you could use metrics like you know, how many people watch it, what time slot are you in, because the people who are getting the 8 p.m. on Monday time slot are getting much better advertisements and probably much more of that ad revenue than the people who are getting broadcast at 3 a.m. on Sunday, you know? So, but when you're on the internet, you know, anybody could watch any time. So you can go by the amount of views, but then even in the YouTube metrics, you'll see kind of the more important metrics, I feel like, are how many people are watching your video totally, how long are they staying, and then your click-through rate. That's another big metric online, is how many of those people are actually clicking those ads. Click-through rate's crazy. I mean, from my understanding, most click-through rates are, I think, under 1%. And that's actually considered good. But, I mean, it's difficult I don't have any way to replace it. I just know I don't want to watch a 45-second ad to watch a 30-second YouTube video. I feel like, my opinion, they should come up with some kind of algorithm that says, hey, a company should make a series of ads. It can be anywhere from 5 seconds to a minute. And then they replace the ad based on a percentage of how much the total time of the video is. So if your video is only 10 seconds long, there's no ad in front of it, it's not going to be monetized. And then if your video is 60 minutes, maybe you get not even 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes of ad time before it, and then base it off of that. But the problem is also those ads pay so little. Like, people are having a really hard time making money off of ads because you need to rack up huge view numbers to make any type of money.
Well, I mean, another part of it is, like, in order to get monetized in the first place, you need to have a lot of subscribers. Like, you need to show proof that you actually have content that people are watching before they'll monetize you. But
I think they made it
even before then, though. Like, you actually don't collect a lot of money, or any money for that matter, if you're posting content to YouTube. Like, we have Jersey Hobby Hour has a bunch of videos on YouTube. Of course, we're not making any money from it. But, you know, what if we had more subscribers, and we didn't necessarily hit the threshold in order to start monetizing? You have people who are watching advertisements, and Google's just collecting the money, and understandably, because they're hosting the content for us. But, you know, we as the content producers who do it for free, I mean, there's no incentive to want to do it other than just doing it for fun.
That's why things like Patreon became so popular. I think they have actually made it easier to become like an AdSense partner, I think is what they call it. I think they've made it easier, but even still, you're only making, you know, pennies on the dollar usually. So things like Patreon have taken off because you have people come in and they say, all right, I'm pledging that I'm going to give you $10 a month. I'm pledging that I'll give you $50 a month. And so you see that these people now are excited, and rightfully so, that just by making this content, people are willing to pay, and they're making $30,000 a year, which isn't a lot of money, but based on ad metrics before, you might have only made, you know, $10,000 or $5,000 that year based on ad metrics. So I don't have a model to replace it. I feel like YouTube's really trying. In this particular sense, YouTube realizes, and this is actually a good thing with YouTube Red, YouTube's realizing that the ad revenue that they're getting, because they're still getting a huge amount of ad revenue, the ad model's starting to crumble. People don't want to watch commercials. It's kind of like the DVR of the TV. People don't want to watch them, so that you know, kind of assholes like me are using ad blockers. And I mean, I don't want to sit through a Lexus commercial for 30 seconds so that I could watch a 45-second Simpsons clip. You know, it's not, to me, a lot of the times I see that 30 seconds thing, even though they'll let you skip the ad after a certain amount of time, sometimes they don't. And if I see that 30 seconds and not letting me skip, a lot of the times I'll just click out of the video. It's not worth it.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I do like Twitch's model that they have. I mean, yes, of course, they force you to watch advertisements unless
Yeah,
you pay for the Turbo service, which I think is something like $10 a month or something like that.
exactly. Yeah.
But the content producer also can have a subscribe button where they can collect money from the users who are actually watching. Like I think that's actually something useful. YouTube doesn't have something like that. They don't have
Well,
like a sub button that allows you to, contribute money to the content producer that's on the website.
what you're into, well, they're going to probably, I venture to say that. So anytime this is something I've noticed with Google, even Facebook to some extent, anytime they see something that's successful externally, they try to implement it. So you see how Facebook do it with Time Hop, they implemented memories. I would not be surprised, and I remember hearing that YouTube might kind of integrate a Patreon like feature into YouTube, which would make sense. Um, but I don't know of a good model that could replace it. I mean, at this point, everybody's kind of going subscription. You'll see pay a subscription, and with advertisements, because YouTube's only giving them pennies on the dollar, a lot of content creators are reaching out and doing whole videos that are just advertisement. So they'll say, "Oh, I've used this particular product for X amount of time." Kind of like phone reviews. They'll be like almost like reviewers. So whereas normally you'd have somebody who's just kind of running around and doing these videos, they'll try to integrate more of these product placement videos because they'll get paid more. It's not a bad thing. There's whole sections of YouTube devoted to it, but it's kind of the medium's trying to evolve, and it's in this weird state right now where ads just aren't making enough money to support people, and people are trying to do this for a living. And like you were saying with product placement, I mean, it kind of goes into more of a territory of privacy. How much data do you want to be collected on you? It's a little bit creepy, It's like that old story from a couple years ago where Target knew that woman was pregnant before she did. I'm sorry, before her family did. Some girl, I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but female, she was a teenager, she was pregnant. She hadn't told her family yet, and because she was shopping for things on Target.com, and their algorithms picked up on the fact that she was shopping for things that new mothers start shopping for, they sent a flyer to her house with her name on it that said, "Oh, we noticed you were shopping for baby things," or "We noticed that you might be a new mother," or something to that effect. And that's how her family found out that she was pregnant, because Target told them.
Yeah, but I think like that type of thing is something that's useful. Even though you're having your privacy invaded, I think that a little bit of sacrifice in that department is good for ease of access to things. Although there is, I mean, a whole nother conversation to be had about viewing content on the internet, because you're so focused on what you want to view that there's plenty of other stuff that's out there. It's like picking up the Sunday newspaper back in the day. Like, you see the headline, you read that headline, or if you're a businessman, you pick up the newspaper, you read only the business section, but you don't go and read the funnies or some of the other sections that are available in the newspaper. Same thing with the internet. Like, we have a very focused, very delivered portion of knowledge that's available to us, and that's what we're kind of immersing ourselves in, which is good because we get a lot of depth out of it and because we enjoy it. But ultimately, like, we lose a little bit of the breadth of, hey, I saw something on Wiki, I'm going to follow that down that sort of trail. But I mean, even beyond that, just having access to websites and stuff like that you wouldn't normally look at.
Big Brother. I don't know. I just always picture Big Brother, watching over your shoulder. It's just a little creepy, but I mean, they've done it for years in some capacity. So I mean, I guess at least at this point, your data is actually doing something.
But I think as the internet grows, you have more people and more users that it's happening to. Your security is in your anonymity, because no one really cares.
That's the problem. Like, how much anonymity you'll have your individual. I mean, in Windows 10, it does the same thing. It says you'll have an individual advertisement ID that's attached to your Microsoft account. And they say it's anonymous, but it's only anonymous to third parties. Microsoft will know, hey, this person really likes, empanadas. You'll kind of get in your own thing.
But, I don't know. I don't think that ultimately matters, though, unless someone's sitting at Redmond, Washington, in Microsoft headquarters, like, Justin Kaz really likes empanadas.
I do love empanadas.
Like, I don't think someone's actually doing that. And if they are, of course,
then they want to kill me, so they send a poisoned empanada from the ivory tower down to my house, and I eat it. And nah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's maybe growing pains. Maybe I'm just an old man. I don't know. Something about privacy, and that's kind of leading into our next topic with privacy and kind of issues.
CIA director, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if the CIA can't be private, nobody could be private. CIA director John Brennan, his emails got hacked by hacking, not even a hacking group, really. It was the guy who did it. It was apparently under 20 years old. He said that he was younger than 20, and he got it through social engineering. Again, the systems break down, not necessarily always with your password strength, but with how well people can talk. He actually did it in a very ingenious way, and it's not uncommon from the Apple social engineering hack from a couple years ago. He reverse looked up the CIA director's number, his mobile phone number, discovered he was a Verizon customer. He then posed as a Verizon technician, contacted the guy's company or his personal people, however you want to say that. He made up an employee ID, and he from those people said that he was having issues. He said his systems were down. He couldn't access something he needed for the CIA director. And he made up the employee ID. He was able to get the account number and the 4-digit PIN, and the 4-digit PIN from his bank card that he used to pay the bill, and his backup phone number on the account. So now that's all the information you need to reset your account. He then turned around and realized that the email address on the Verizon account was an AOL account. So using all this information, he contacted AOL and said he couldn't get into his AOL account. One of the security questions was, what was the last 4 digits of your credit card number? He gave that. He then asked for the guy's name and phone number. He gave that. And AOL gave him access to his AOL account. Now, the interesting thing about this isn't necessarily that it's just social engineering. The CIA director realized that his account was hijacked. So he contacted AOL and changed his password. And they redid the same trick. They called him up the same way. And this happened 3 times. They were able to re-hijack his account 3 times. And they never actually fixed the problem. The CIA director just deleted his email address. But they were able to get a bunch of emails out of his account. Kind of similar to the Hillary Clinton thing that's going on, but not really. They didn't find anything necessarily confidential, said one article I read. But then another article I read actually said that they found a spreadsheet full of people's phone numbers and social security numbers. So, I mean, just watch your passwords, because those emails are actually being published online now by WikiLeaks.
I think it's kind of interesting to actually note that, I mean, social engineering can get you a lot of information if you're willing to lie and kind of cheat your way through the system. But like, what's more interesting though is like passwords, like how difficult they are to remember and what they force you to do. Like use a capital, use a symbol, and it has to be 8 characters long. Whereas if you decided to use a string of 10 words, for example, it would probably be more secure than using something with just 1 capital letter and 1 symbol.
Well, on the social engineering front, the interesting thing about it is the issue is it was revealed when if you remember, there was a social engineering hack about Apple a couple years ago. The problem is that certain companies hold some things as confidential and other companies don't. Some companies won't tell you the last 4 digits of your credit card number over the phone, and because that's, you know, they're using that as a security feature. Some companies don't care because they don't use it as a security feature, and you can't charge something with the last 4 digits of your credit card number, so they'll give it out. The problem is because none of the companies have like a uniform set of what's confidential and what's not. But if you know somebody's information for one company, you can usually cross-reference and get all the information. So it's just a matter of ping-ponging and being able to ask the right questions to be able to get into somebody's accounts. And then once you're in, I mean, it's kind of a nightmare. I mean, you could have the most secure password in the world, but if somebody's able to social engineer you, I mean,
right.
And that's the problem. You know, it was the social engineering and then the what was this? I'm trying to remember what the second thing you just said was. You said the social engineering and
password length.
Oh, the password length actually, that's pretty important just from a brute force standpoint, because even though you will have a really long password, there's I feel look like an idiot. There's 23 letters in the alphabet, right?
Right. Well, what I was getting at though is like, you know, they have 8-character maximum or 8-character minimum rather.
Yeah.
And they force you to have a capital letter and a symbol, for example. But like, there's only so many symbols that are on your keyboard, at least standard ones that they'll let you put into the password field.
Yeah.
And then there's only 26 more capital letters. So I think there are more degrees of entropy with a larger password. Let's say if you took a sentence that you probably know, you know, the quick brown fox jumped over the slow
tortoise or whatever,
or something. Using that string, because it's something so memorable, is actually more difficult to brute force crack than using something with a capital letter and a symbol.
Well, the problem is, I'm trying to remember mathematically how this works. It's kind of like binary. When you have binary, the way binary works is each digit could either be a 0 or a 1. So you have a base 2. That's why they call it, if somebody's familiar with it, they call it a base 2 number. And then to realize how many possible combinations you can have in a certain length of a string, so let's say you have a 4-digit number, a 4-digit string. And each one could be a 0 or a 1. So they're base 2 numbers. So you have 2 raised to the power of 4, because each one of the 4 can be a 1 or a 0. So it's base 2 raised to the 4th, and that's the maximum number of possible combinations you can have. By increasing the amount of letters, so you have 23 letters in the alphabet. Let's say you can only use lowercase letters. You have 23 raised to however long the string is. So if you have an 8-character password, it's 23 raised to the power of 8. By just making it capital, and I could be totally wrong on this math. It's been a while since I did any discrete math. But if you take the capital letter, it now increases that from 23 possible letters to 46. By adding in numbers 1 through 0, you've taken it from 46 and you've added 10, so it's now 56. And by adding special characters, however many special characters there are, you've added that to the base as well. So you take that number and you increase it by however long the length is. So if you have a number like, let's say it's an 8-character password, 23 raised to the power of 8 is 78. What's that? 100,000 million. It looks like 78 billion. But if you have 46 raised to the power of 8, it goes up by an order of magnitude. So each thing kind of raises an order of magnitude. But the problem is the computers are so clever now. You're right. In some sense, you're right, because the computers are so clever now that that's why brute force isn't always the most. That's why social engineering is so much more popular. The brute force method, they can do millions of guesses in a second, but it's at the end of the day, it really none of this matters at all, because 1, people still use social engineering, which works, and 2, I think the most common password is still password.
Yeah, or like username administrator, and then password is the password.
Like I'm gonna sit here and tell you all these mathematics, like all this math. You should use this. You should use that. And I love the fact that people are implementing these things. But the biggest problem is, 1, people are still getting locked out of their accounts because they can't remember their passwords. So what they end up doing is writing them down on Post-it notes and putting them on their computers, or putting them in a file that's
underneath the keyboard.
Yeah, or the file is not password protected, and they're putting them in a file so people can just read them. So you have this super secure password that's 16 digits and all these special characters, and then somebody just reads it and types it in. Or to remember it, they're using like their name or password or admin, or we're gonna get clever, it's gonna be password 1. Like it's like that's why things like 1Pass and all that stuff are super popular, is because they're so just obscure. They're these 23-digit alphanumeric special symbol, blah 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 blah, and that's why they're so popular. But I mean, if somebody forgets their password and they have all the security questions and everything, they're like, I'm going to remember these security questions. I mean, all you have to do is go up to somebody. Just go up to somebody and be like, in casual conversation. You could probably do it at work. I wouldn't recommend it because you work in a relatively secure place. But you could go up to somebody on the street and go, oh my God, I think you look so familiar. What's your mother's maiden name? Or, hey, where did you go to school?
What was the make and model of your first car?
Yeah, like the questions. You don't ask them directly, but you could probably work them into casual conversation. And I bet if you wanted to really crack into somebody's like some high profile person's password or anything like that, you could probably just do a little bit of research on them and figure out, you're the president of, I don't know, the CIA, you're the CIA director. Where did he go to school? Where was his elementary school? Oh, AOL is asking what's his first school. Click, click, click. Like, they need to do something, but I don't know what they're gonna do. It's probably gonna be like a fingerprint thing at the end of the day.
So speaking of algorithms for cracking passwords and things like that, we actually, I think Alan and I were looking at a website called Library of Babel. And I had seen this on Vsauce. I don't know if do you watch Vsauce ever on YouTube?
Yeah, well, I watched Vsauce 1. I haven't really watched too much Vsauce 2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't watch 2 or 3, but he actually mentions the Library of Babel, and I'll post a link in the video description. Basically, it's a algorithm which generates information on a very regular formatted kind of system, so that you could actually come up with any string of words or letters or numbers and input it into the system. It'll actually have an archive of how far along in its calculation it would actually find that string. So like if you wanted to,
that's awesome.
if you wanted to find, Justin Kaz in the library, it actually has a very specific location because of the calculation that it does. And it basically does this randomly, because the assumption is that if you could have a book that was large enough that had nothing but random letters and numbers strung together, eventually you'd have to come across your name or
anything. If you
anything,
if you had an infinite number of letters and numbers, just infinitely long,
right, infinitely just strung together and completely random.
That's the old joke that if you put enough, if you had an infinite amount of time and an infinite amount of monkeys typing on a typewriter, eventually Shakespeare would be written.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly the case. Yeah. Check it out. If you Google Library of Babel, again, I'll post
that's just description. That's just that whole, if you have 2 to the 100 whatever, you'll have every possible combination of whatever. That's interesting actually. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so something to check out.
It would take longer than the heat death of the universe to whatever.
The last thing that I kind of wanted to bring up, just to make a quick little note about, was on CNN today, there was actually an article about Lego bricks, and there's actually a shortage. Apparently, the Danish company is having problems manufacturing enough of Lego bricks to supply the demand that all the movies and all the games that recently have come up.
Oh wow!
And they actually are expanding capacity, but it won't be available until 2020. So you're gonna have 5 years of shortages on Lego bricks. And
all right.
Have you been to like a Toys R Us recently and looked at how much money Lego boxes?
But I'm about to cash in.
If you want to buy a kit, some of them are like a couple $100. Like it's no joke.
Well, I mean, they're probably just cashing in on it because people love Lego. But I mean, now's the time. I have a bunch of Legos. It's time to cash in.
Yeah, I mean, I have Legos from when I was a kid, but none of them are like the kits that you could build stuff with. It was just like the bins of just random blocks.
Who cares, man? In this economy, they'll take any Legos they can get. Have you ever heard anything about the Lego company though? Like their precision to detail and their quality control is insane. Legos, the company itself is actually really interesting. The bricks themselves are really crazy too. The amount of weight they can hold. Gizmodo did an article a while ago about how tall could the largest Lego tower be before the bricks at the bottom finally crushed. I'm gonna look it up. It was eventually the load reached 950 pounds and the bricks began to slowly deform. So I think it was actually that the average 2x2 brick, so just a little square brick, each was made of plastic and take up to 950 pounds before it deforms. That's crazy.
I mean, you could totally build furniture out of Legos, which is phenomenal. I don't know if I'd ever want to sit on anything like that without a cushion on it, but certainly you could. It'd be very expensive these days too.
But that's crazy. It's this little tiny brick. It's a little tiny brick, and it can hold up to 950 pounds without even deforming. I mean, there's probably some static mathematical reason why because it's the optimal whatever. But I mean, that's just crazy. It's a tiny little brick made out of plastic, and
I wonder if they've ever actually brought Legos into space.
I wonder. I mean, I don't know. Under what reason would they need to?
No, I mean, they bring plenty of frivolous stuff into space just to run experiments and stuff like that. And
just see which one falls faster, a Lego brick or a bowling ball.
No, Lego brick or that other company that makes Lego bricks.
Mega
blocks. See which one's stronger. Which one stands up to the vacuum of space?
Oh, well, now's the time. Now's the time for Mega Blocks to cash in. Lego's got a shortage. Mega Blocks coming in, just swooping right in. Yeah. They're like, oh, you need some building bricks? I got what you need. Lincoln Logs is sitting in the background, like, when you guys both have shortages, you know who they're gonna come crawling to. That's really I didn't realize that Lego had a short. They're a very interesting company, though. They're very.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a Danish toy maker that like decided to make blocks out of wood that interlocked, and that's how it all started. Could you imagine like if we came up with something like that like now, like something like really innocuous? It's like, oh, I want to make a toy that like spins, and like 50 years later, it becomes like a mega $1 million business.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, they say, what is it? They say genius is the ability to see the obvious, right? Whatever is the most obvious thing in front of you. If you can kind of see that and grasp onto it, you're a genius. But it's 4x4 brick that interlocks with another 4x4 brick, and all of a sudden I'm got my own personal theater, so I don't have to go to the movie theaters and have to deal with all those people.
Well, I think I'm a genius because I think it's obvious we should probably close out the show for this evening.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Justin, for being on the show with me, even though Alan wasn't here to join us.
He is missed.
And I want to thank everyone who's watching live, which there's one viewer who's watching. Thank you. And thank everyone who decides to watch us on YouTube directly afterwards, just for checking us out. Again, we're not ad-supported, so we don't care if you watch or not. We're just doing this for fun.
That one person's Alan. He's just sitting there like, I didn't have to go online today.
Again, you can check us out on YouTube after this video posts. We're on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. For at least the next 3 weeks after this. We might change the format of the show a little bit and might do 2 shows. Alan and I have been kind of discussing what the strategy is after our sort of 3-month review period. And Justin's been interested in getting on the show very often, so you might be seeing him quite a bit more than you have in the past. Again, Justin, thanks.
No problem.
And maybe we'll see everyone next week. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.